Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast, hosted by Jake Bolden and presented by the Kennesaw Group General Contracting and Mighty Dog Roofing. Don't miss another Tuesday episode by subscribing to the podcast on all streaming platforms or catch our visual presentation uploaded every week on YouTube. Don't miss our next ticket giveaways by subscribing and following on all Blue Raider Podcast social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Blue Raider Pod. Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Bolden, and today it is another action-filled episode for you. Quick turnaround for football. They're coming off the loss Thursday night against the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs on the road. Looking to, again, capitalize on that quick turnaround tonight at the Johnny Red Floyd Stadium against the Kennesaw State Owls. That kicks off tonight at 7 p.m. I hope to see all of you there, and we're going to preview a little bit of that game with Millette of the Owl Chat podcast, also the sports editor for the Sentinel, the Kansas State student-run newspaper, as well as talk with Isaiah Davis, host of the Champ Pod, to talk a little bit about the upcoming matchup, as well as reflect back on that Louisiana Tech loss on Thursday night. And then, of course, make sure you stick around for our featured player interview. Today we have Idun Kvaale, who is the junior forward on the women's soccer team, the second leading scorer for the Lady Raiders this year. So great interview with her to talk a little bit about the success the Lady Raiders have, because they are going to make the Conference USA tournament this year. So big things for them. And some big matchups ahead for them as well. But before we get into our episode, as always, I have to take a second to thank our sponsors, and I want to begin with our sponsor, the Kennesaw Group. Since 1987, the Kennesaw Group has been turning dreams into reality, whether it's pre-construction consulting, construction management, design, build, or renovations and improvements. They're here to help exceed your expectations. At the Kennesaw Group, they don't just deliver, they deliver with passion, precision, and unparalleled quality. Their hands-on approach ensures your investment is maximized and your vision is brought to life. From Clarksville all the way down to Columbia and beyond, trust the Kennesaw Group to handle every detail with expertise and care. If you're ready to build your future, contact the Kennesaw Group today at 615-298-9907 or visit their website at kensacogroup.com. And of course, our other sponsor, Mighty Dogs Roofing. When it comes to your home, trust Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East for all your needs. As a veteran and locally owned business, we're honored to be one of just 11 Owens Corning contractors nationwide to win their prestigious service award. From roofing and gutters to windows and siding, our expert team delivers top quality craftsmanship and unmatched service. We're here to protect your home with pride and precision. Choose Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East, where excellence is a tradition. Call us today at 615-MD-ROOFS. That's MDROOFS, or visit their website at mightydogroofing.com to get that free quote today. Thanks again to the Kennesaw Group and Mighty Dog Roofing for sponsoring the Blue Raider Podcast and today's episode. Now, without further ado, I am pleased to bring in our first guest. He is the host of the Champ Pod. He's a young gun. He's the youngest guest I've had on the podcast. Really exciting to hear about him. But Isaiah, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jake, appreciate you having me on, man. Super happy to come on the Blue Raider Podcast. Been waiting for this for a while. Just going to have a great episode today.
Absolutely. And like you said, we've been kind of teeing this one up for a little while. Isaiah's new to the podcasting game, but he's had on a lot of guests. So again, if you haven't heard of his stuff, we'll tee up all your social media as we tie things together at the end here. But Isaiah is a staple on the sidelines every Saturday, or I guess now where it's midweek games, as well as there in the press conferences. So appreciate having Isaiah on. But before we get into our talk about Louisiana Tech, I want to, as always, we'll bring in the post-game presser from Derek Mason and hear a word from him.
First of all, want to say hats off to Coach Cumbie. His team played hard. They played physical. For us, common mistakes, may continue, and it's some of the same mistakes. So unfortunately, that's on me. We look up and we have to protect the ball. We have to do a better job again of setting edges. I thought the ball fell off the table way too many times tonight. And so, defensively, just the understanding of what they were doing. The ball was coming out fast. They were doing a good job on first down of getting to, second and short. And when you do that, man, it makes it a rough night, because I think they wound up like 12 or 16 overall on third down. And that's that's a tough thing defensively because you're not getting off the field and you're not getting your offense the ball back. I thought we just didn't do enough to get our offense the ball back tonight. So as I look at it in its totality, I thought we made some plays early, but after that, man, we lost momentum and we couldn't gain it back. And that's sort of been the story of this football team as we've gone through the season. So it's a fast turnaround. We got to get ready to turn around versus Kennesaw State and go fix it.
So much there to unpack, as always, for Mason as he kind of addresses all the issues going on. That's 5 straight losses now, the 48-21 loss down in Ruston, and it really wasn't the fashion in which I thought we would lose that game, if we were going to lose that game. I kind of thought we had an opportunity to turn the season around, if you will, get yourself to 2-4, kind of be optimistic about, obviously, the game that's going to happen tonight and then the Jacksonville State game next week, and see if you can't get yourself to 6 wins. But now that optimism has dwindled, Isaiah, I'll turn it to you. You know, what did you see from the Raiders on Thursday night?
I mean, I think Coach Mason absolutely nailed it. I mean, like, you can't get off the field on defense, and you can't provide Nicholas Vadiato to maybe throw a pass to Holden Willis on the offense. You can't use the targets that we got on offense if you can't get off the field on defense. I think on our notes we had like one of the worst teams on third down on defense. We're allowing 10+ yards per play. I mean, we're just getting run over the whole time. I mean, you can't make offense plays if your defense isn't going to give you the ball. So somebody needs to step up the whole defensive side. And I think Coach Stewart is going to be going up to the box. So I wonder if that's going to change anything for next week.
Yeah, that's a great tidbit there that they spoke about it in yesterday's press conference, is that Stewart's now going to be going up into the box. I don't know necessarily if that does change anything, but you have to think that, like, you know, changing something's going to hopefully stir up some magic for the defense. But yeah, to shore up some of those statistics you threw up there, you're third worst in college football at 47% third down defense. You're the 7th worst in college football at 69 rushing yards a game. You're the 4th worst in college football at 10.4 yards per attempt. And I think the ultimate disappointment really is Louisiana Tech, a defense or offense that has really struggled all season. Sonny Cumbie relinquishes the offensive play calling to his offensive line coach, and now you get a freshman quarterback that just throws 290 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, you know, that's quarterback. I mean, that's video game numbers, you know, like that's just stuff you can't really relinquish. But you run into that same buzzsaw opportunity tonight when you talk about a whole new quarterback. Now, Kennesaw State is their own beast in themselves, and they've had a lot of their own issues and stuff like that. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but I still want to keep our attention on Thursday night. You know, Isaiah, are there any positives that you felt you could take away from this game?
I mean, I think we definitely showcased our offense. One of the first plays I saw from the game was Nicholas Vadiato throwing it right to Holden Willis into the end zone. And I just think maybe if we try to get the ball to our offense, make some plays, I think we really could have a dominant offense. This team is built to have a dominant offense with Holden Willis, Credle in the backfield, Nick Vadiato, Omari Keller. And there's so many names on the offense that we should not be only scoring 21 points in a game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the roller coaster ride of Omari Kelly right now, he leads the conference in receiving, and I know that a lot of fans may hear this and they may get upset with Omari because of his untimely fumbles, like we saw in the Memphis game, and then he had an untimely fumble there in the first quarter against La Tech that really kind of turned the game on its head for us. But he's kind of an asset. He's a guy that we've got to have. He's got the hands, he's got the speed, he's got that top end speed that you need from your wide out. So I hate to bag on him too much. The fumbles are bad, and that's something that can be addressed. But he, like you said, this is a good offense. I don't see any reason as to why they're not there. But I think the glaring thing is going to be the offensive line. You know, that personnel they've been hurt. They're shuffling through a lot of those guys. So you kind of hope that you get a little bit healthy, but you're in this stretch now where you have 3 games in 2 weeks. Healthy is kind of on the back burner right now until you get to that next bye week. So, you know, you hope to feel better about Kennesaw State, and we'll turn our attention there now. You got that kickoff tonight, 7 p.m. there at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium. Isaiah, how are you feeling about this game tonight?
Well, I just watched the press conference, and I learned that Kevin Byard's coming, so I might have a chance to see him. Super excited for that. I mean, I heard some people are painting up for the game, so there should be a lot of atmosphere around this game. I think give some motive for this offense. And like you said, the offensive line, I heard some of our guys are coming back through this midweek game. So super excited. I think we have a chance. When I'm looking at the schedule here, Kennesaw State was the game that I'm like, man, we have to win that game. Like, if we don't win this game, we're already in a whole lot of trouble. We're going to be a lot deeper for sure.
The current betting line is at 10 points right now, and I know you're a young gun, and I don't want you to get on the betting advice and things like that, but that just goes to show that this is a game, even as bad as our season has been, this is a game that you've got to win, and you're expected to win it by at least 2 touchdowns. Do you think that's doable, Isaiah? You think a 2-touchdown victory tonight is plausible?
I mean, from what we've seen, we keep on starting off real hot in the first half, and then due to the second half, and I feel like that's what I've seen from just a lot of my time being a fan of MTSU, is we'll start off real hot at the start, and it was kind of die at the end there. And I mean, you saw that last week. You've seen that Tennessee Tech game. I mean, just let off the gas against teams that we need to keep on pushing forward. So I think if we keep on playing all 4 quarters, and sometimes maybe this game might even take a 5th quarter, maybe going to overtime for us to win it, we've got to play the full game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've been saying that all season long. You got to play a full 60 minutes to feel some level of confidence, and you really got to have one, because your next matchup is Jacksonville State, and they've made a change at quarterback. They're going to Tyler Huff now. Rich Rodriguez has made the switch, and Jacksonville State looks poised to kind of work themselves back in that top tier of Conference USA. So you got to get some level of confidence under your feet as you move into that game. But to talk about the Kennesaw State again tonight, some of the keys to success, I've got a few, and Isaiah, I'll give you an opportunity to kind of share a few of yours. One of the things that we've already talked about is the Owls defense and our ability we've got to be able to move the ball on that poor defense. They're one of the worst scoring defenses in Conference USA. So I think it comes down to the passing game opening back up. Vadiato's got to get the time tonight to make those passes and find his receivers. Holden Willis is a guy that's kind of been hiding. I mean, he makes the big play here and there, but he's a guy that I expect to have a big breakout game. Omari Kelly, I still expect him to have a good game. So I think capitalizing on the poor passing defense from Kennesaw is going to be vital to their success, as well as, again, back to the whole getting your mojo, getting that wind in your sails as you move into that Jacksonville State game. But what are some other keys you might have for the game tonight, Isaiah?
I mean, yeah, I think kind of the same things I said. We got to keep the offense going. Got to get that score up. I mean, the defense, we need to pick it up for sure. I mean, you mentioned this is one of the, like you said, it was the worst passing teams in the NCAA. Yeah, I mean, we saw that last week, though, with Louisiana Tech. Not a very offensive team in our defense. I mean, it definitely did not show one of the worst passing teams. So defense wins championships. And if we're going to go out and try to win some type of championship, I don't think we're in Conference USA polls anymore. But a win is a win. We need to get a win tomorrow or tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. One of the topics of discussion too is for Kennesaw State and their camp is the quarterback situation. So as I've already teased at the beginning of this episode, we're going to have Kai Millette from the Owl Chat podcast and the Sentinel, the Kennesaw State student run newspaper. They're going to have a new quarterback under center tonight for the Owls. They've done away with Davis Bryson. They've seen enough of him. 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So I think they're ready to try something new. And to credit Brian Bohannon, the head coach there at Kennesaw State, I think it's time that they do that. And there's really no better week. You're going to play the worst scoring defense in Conference USA in Middle Tennessee. So you're hoping to get some sort of offense rolling, and this would be the week to try those things out. So from what I've heard in their camp, they've had 3 separate guys take snaps this week. You got Caleb Johnson. He's the redshirt sophomore. He transfers from a junior college, but he actually signed to Louisville out of high school, but he did not play for the Cardinals. So, but any guy that signs with Louisville out of high school has got to be some level of athlete. Braden Bohannon, the redshirt sophomore, he's the son of head coach Brian, who's actually received some snaps last season before taking the red shirt. And then Lucas Shearhorn, who is a high school signee, a true freshman out of Spring, Texas. So those are the 3 guys that I'm told have been taking snaps in camp this week. We could see any one of them I think that they all provide something a little bit different. My understanding is Caleb is a lot more of an athletic, can use his legs, very similar to that of Davis Bryson. Braden Bohannon is more of a pocket passer, but again, still pretty versatile. And I don't really know much about Lucas Shearhorn. I mean, you can go back to his high school tape, but it's just a different ball game. So, but you got to have some level of confidence if he's getting first team snaps this week. So, Isaiah, before we hang this call up, I want to talk about a little bit on the vision. You touched about it there. I know you're talking championships, but really, I think objectively, if this team could still get to 6 wins, you'd feel pretty good about it. But right now, I'm a pessimist when it comes to that. I don't know that they can get to 6 wins, but it does start in tonight's game against Kennesaw State. So I want to ask you, do you think 6 wins is still attainable for this team?
Jake, I think 6 wins is obtainable for any team if they really put the mindset in. I think a lot of our guys and a lot of the culture that the borough has really built around MTSU has been, man, like, we're just horrible. We can't win a game. You know, we're 1-5. We're almost losing to Tennessee Tech. This, and this. I think our players and our fans, everybody in the Middle Tennessee area needs to switch their mindset to we can win games. We've had success in the past. You know, we won a bowl game, what was it, 1 or 2 years ago. This team can win. This team can win, and they can win good. And we've shown that we have the strengths and the team to win. We are a win now team. We are a win now team, and I think that we just need to go out there with a different mindset, and I think we can get the job done.
So tell me, we look a little ahead of the schedule. I know we said Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State. You got UTEP, Liberty, New Mexico State, FIU. Those are your final 4 games of the season. Liberty looks tough, but you had the benefit of that being at home, and then you got UTEP, New Mexico State, FIU. You gotta win now, like you said. I mean, if you want to get to 6 wins, you can't afford to take another game off. Realistically, you got to obviously win this Kennesaw State game. Jacksonville State game was a swing game I had at the beginning of the year, but again, Jacksonville State is kind of they found a rejuvenation with a change of quarterback, and then we've kind of fallen off. We haven't played to the level that I think that we're very capable of, and I'm sure from what it sounds like, Isaiah, you think this team is very capable of doing the same thing. So hopefully, MTSU and Derek Mason has carried that message on to the team as a whole. So, Isaiah, I'll turn this over to you. I know you talked a little bit. You feel really confident about this game tonight. What's a good score prediction for you?
Man, I think it's gonna be a tough battle. I think it could be a high scoring game. It could have been like a kind of a shootout going on here. I think we could maybe see like a 35-28. I think we could see that. I think MTSU will prevail though. This game could go into overtime. I mean, these are some balanced teams. Kennesaw State, we can't look past them. This is a good team, and we don't have a lot of tape. Like we said, we can only hear of this quarterback that they're putting in, and especially with this midweek, we don't have a lot of time to hear what this quarterback is going to show us, and I think that's going to throw us off a little bit. And our defense, I mean, we make a few plays on defense. I think we'll stick in this game, and we'll come out with the win, though.
Yeah, that's a great point about the quarterback, lack of having tape on those guys. Yeah, that's a good point, and I agree with you. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. If the history has shown anything this year, when MTSU plays bad offenses, the scoreboard gets lit up, and when MTSU plays good offenses, the under would hit, as we would say. So a lot of defense typically prevails in those games. So a lot to look forward to tonight. Isaiah, I appreciate you having joining us, I should say. Isaiah, tell the fans a little bit about tell them a little bit about yourself. Again, I know that you're young and we're excited to have you on, but tell us a little bit about the Champ podcast. You know, how can they listen to your episodes? You know, anything exciting coming down the chute for you?
Yeah, guys, Isaiah Davis, 16 years old. I would say I do reporting at MTSU, and I have the Champ podcast. Originally started it with my friend, but eventually just took it over, and it's been all up there. We don't just interview MTSU players. I mean, we've gone to Tennessee. We've gone, where else? Auburn. I mean, any school that has a player that we can get on there, you know, we just shoot them a DM, and then we try to get them on. I mean, you can find me on the sideline. If you guys want to listen to the episodes, there should be a YouTube. You might have to look up the Champ podcast, Isaiah Davis. Not too big, apparently, on YouTube. You guys have put my name there. We are on Spotify as well, the Champ podcast, and our Instagram as well is the Champ Pod.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, as he said, a lot of people come through the doors of the Champ podcast. So really good stuff. exciting for Isaiah and his future in sports reporting, and I'm very happy to get him some opportunity here to talk a little football. Isaiah, thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate you, man.
Did you know the Blue Raider podcast has an online store? You can now support your favorite podcast by checking out our selection at our website, blueraiderpodcast.com. And stay tuned for new merchandise releases as we collaborate with athletes in NIL partnerships.
And now it is time to get to our featured player interview of today. And today's episode, I'm really excited. We're talking a little bit about Lady Raiders soccer, and joining us is the second leading goal scorer for the Lady Raiders. She's up to 5 goals already, and with 3 matches remaining, coming to us from Molde, Norway, it is Idun Kvaale. Idun, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and it's a pleasure to have you. As I said, talking to you prior to this interview, you're my third soccer player, and it's really exciting to have a lot of you on for the fact that the tide is kind of turning for the Lady Raider soccer program. I've got you fresh off of the win against Western Kentucky on Sunday. That's always a big win, especially in this scenario for you, because this is your 3rd year here in Murfreesboro, and you finally got 100 Miles of Hate win. So tell me a little bit about that matchup on Sunday, and how does it feel to finally get that win under your belt?
It's a very important game for us, for sure. The rivalry is very, very big, and it's just something that we've been looking forward to for a long time. It's definitely last year we felt like we did a little bit of a slip up with that game, and we also haven't won a little bit against WKU, and so we had just a lot. We were so eager to get this game and get this win, and I'm just really happy that we got it. And I felt like we played well and did the job. So yeah.
In your career, like I touched on, your freshman year was a 1-1 tie. Last year it was a 3-0 loss, and then on Sunday you got a 2-0 win. So really exciting stuff there. The team is on a little bit of a win streak right now. As things sit on the day of the release of this episode, you guys are in 3rd place, 12 points. I don't want to jinx anything, but you kind of look like a lock already for the conference tournament at the end of the year. So again, that's kind of something that's new for you as well. The program hasn't been to the conference tournament since 2021. What about the team this year is just clicking for you guys? Why are you performing so well through the conference season?
I think obviously there's a lot of great talent and amazing players in our team. I think this year we have a lot of trust, and I think that's been like the little key factor that's been keeping us up and going this year. As far as hard work and skill can take you, I feel like the trust that we have has been very crucial. The trust that we have in the coaches and the teammates when I'm playing, and the bench when someone comes in for me. And I think we proved that when we have 12 different goal scorers so far in the season. So yeah, trust, I'll say, is a very big part of our success this year.
And another little tidbit to add into the success is, Emma Pedersen, she's out for the year with an injury, which is kind of threw a wrench in it because she was performing so well for you guys to start. And yet you guys haven't really missed a beat, and you've been a part of that. As I teased at the introduction, you're up to 5 goals. You scored 3 last year. You still got 3 games in hand this year. Tell me a little bit about Idun's success. Where is that coming from?
That's definitely, obviously as a forward, that's your whole goal, is to score goals or at least create some, if it's assists or just being part of that final play that creates a product. But obviously getting those goals in, that's kind of what you want. That's like the big goal for any forward. So it feels really good to be able to have that success and create those products. So yeah.
In 7 straight matches, you've gotten a shot on goal, and that's kind of brings your season total up to 18. And again, to draw back on the success you had last year, you had 11. So it seems like the opportunities are there for you this year. And then a player in specific that I love talking about on the podcast is Manon Labarge. She's kind of a catalyst for this team. She has tons of energy. I loved interviewing her in the summer series. For those that haven't heard that, I do encourage that interview. Tell me about the relationship you have with Manon. Again, the player that she is, she's second in the conference, tied for second in the conference with goals scored at 10 as a midfielder. She's a ball of energy, not only her personality, but on the field too.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love her. She is, first of all, an amazing person, but also an amazing player. And I feel like the connection we have is really good. We've had a lot of combination play between us, if she assists me or I assist her. And so that's definitely a duo that, she's one of my favorite players on the team too. She is just, you never know what she's going to do. She always has something funny or just amazing up her sleeve. So yeah, she's just an amazing player, and we're really grateful to have her. So yeah.
What's the chemistry like between you two off the field, and as well as a lot of the international players alike? I mean, you've been here for 3 years. I'm sure you're a part of the group that kind of shows the incoming freshmen and the new transfers around Murfreesboro. What's kind of the relationship you have with your teammates?
That's everything for me, honestly. That's especially as an international, that's my family, and I think they'll say the same. All the other internationals will say the same for that. Um, it's the people that you hang out with every day, especially freshman year when we all lived in the same complex, the same building. We would run to each other's rooms and hang out every single day, and so we've just created a great relationship. And I think as new people come in, we've definitely been able to transfer that relationship and yeah, shown that what a family is and what a great team we are. So yeah.
What are some places you enjoy in Murfreesboro? Places like you like to eat, things you like to go out to? What about Murfreesboro? Where's the spot you take these new players?
Um, Obviously around campus for sure. You gotta show them. Love going to all of the sporting events that we have, and I think especially bringing international players here, showing them like a tailgate and like the football, the baseball, all of the American sports and the American. But also around Murfreesboro, like just taking people to Target or going around the avenue, or going out to eat at different restaurants. Yeah, that's mostly it.
So the shopping scene is where you're at. You like the avenue. What about food? I know you said you like to take them out to eat. What kind of cuisine do you like here in America?
Um, I'm a big fan of Mexican. I love La Siesta, just outside of campus. It's a really great place, and we always take people there, or just go with my roommates or whoever wants to join.
Absolutely. La Siesta, always an excellent option. We'll turn our attention back to the soccer team here. So you're currently, like I said, third place, CUSA, 12 points. You got 3 matches remaining. You're going on the road. You're going to play Sam Houston, a really tough opponent. They've kind of surprised a lot of the conference this year. And then you draw back to the other teams that you've played at the top of the conference, FIU. I know that's a game that you probably look back on like it was a closer game than the score would entail. So from my eyes, and obviously I'm asking about your insight here, what does it take for this team to kind of overcome those top teams in this conference and really make a run at it in the conference tournament coming up?
Um, I really think that we have been doing really great so far, and with FIU, we're the only team that has been able to score against them, which I think is a very important detail. They've let in 2 goals, and those 2 goals were ours, and I think that's very important to just note. With Sam Houston, obviously we haven't played them yet, and I know they're tough to meet at their home field. But then again, we score a lot of goals, a lot of different goal scorers, and so I have full trust in my teammates when we go on the road, and yeah, I trust that we can do the best that we can, and I'm sure we'll get a product out of it.
Absolutely. And like you said, the close matchup, FIU, New Mexico State was one I didn't mention. Again, that one kind of at the very final minute. So the Lady Raiders are right there, and I'm excited to see what you guys do coming down the stretch. So before we finish the interview here, Eden, one thing I was super interested to know is about where you come from. So Molde, Norway, you're Norwegian, but your hometown, your birthplace, can you repronounce that city for me?
Kirkenes.
Okay, so you're way better than I will. So from there, they're 250 miles north of the Arctic Circle. I know I'm using miles for our listeners. Very far north of the Arctic Circle. So that means you get to experience what we call the midnight sun or the polar nights, where the sun doesn't set for a period of time, and then you go through periods where there is no sunlight. I don't know, again, how long you were able to be raised in that environment, but like, what is life like north of the Arctic Circle? Because that's an experience that none of us would ever share that are listening to this.
Right. It's definitely something that you don't necessarily think too much of before you come here, and you realize that that's just not how all the places in the world are. It's very special, for sure. It's even where I live now, I didn't live up there for too long, but even where I live now, which is just right south of the Arctic Circle, we do have, it's light, like the sun isn't necessarily up, but in the summer during the night, if it's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., it'll be light outside. Like the sun sets, but just barely, and so the light will still be there. But yeah, up north where I was born, the sun doesn't go down, so the sun will shine at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., and it's definitely something that's very special, and definitely appreciate that, especially in the summer because it's very cool. But then again, in the winter, we do have those 24 hours of darkness, which is less fun. But yeah, makes up for it in
So
the summer.
the climate too is something that it's interesting because when you talk about the weather that you experience here, you would expect it to be very cold. And a little bit of research that I was doing, it showed that your winters are relatively mild. It's a wet snow. It's not a freezing snow per se. So really, like the temperature is not as drastic as we may think that it is. That's something that I thought was pretty neat. But I want to hear from you as someone that it sounds like you travel back to Norway when you can. How long does it take you to get acclimated back when you're in Norway, as well as when you come back here into the United States?
I think for winter, it's not that much of a difference. Just like you said, it's not as cold as you would think. And that's mostly because we have a lot of mountains, and so it shields like the wind. Um, so that's definitely helping a little bit. So we do have like the snow and the cold weather, but it's not the Arctic frost, and it's not unbearable. So the winter transition, I'd say, isn't too bad. And the summer, it's definitely a little bit colder coming back to Norway. But the change of in July coming from Norway to the US can be hard because it's a big change and it's very hot here. So
Yeah, the humidity is something that I'm sure even people, I've lived here my entire life and I still am not entirely 100% acclimated to the humidity when it comes in the summer. So I was super interested. I know I trail off into geography talk here, but Norway is a very unique place, and obviously we're glad to have you here in Murfreesboro. But Eden, excited about what the Lady Raiders have in store for them. So I wish you the best of luck upcoming in Huntsville as well as the rest of the season, and then good luck in Miami at the Conference USA tournament. And thanks for joining us today.
thank you.
The BRP is proudly partnered with Rivals Network affiliate GoMiddle.com. Subscribe for premium content for all the inside scoop on MTSU athletics, recruiting, or join our free forums to discuss today's episode and all things Blue Raiders. The BRP is also partnered with the College Huddle, a nationwide collaborative effort with over 80 Division I programs represented. Check out the website at thecollegehuddle.com to catch up on all college football content with daily articles and episodes provided by the largest college podcast community on the internet.
As always, to wrap up our Blue Raider podcast, we like to go behind enemy lines. And once again, this week, we've got another friend of the Conference USA Roundtable joining us. He is the sports editor for KSU Student Newspaper, The Sentinel, as well as a co-host of the Owls Chat podcast. Joining the Blue Raider podcast is Kai Millette. Kai, how's it going, man?
It's going all right, in all things but football. But yeah, thanks for having me, Jake.
Absolutely. And I know, yeah, you said it there. I think a lot of excitement going from the FCS to the FBS is always behind where the football team stands. I know one thing about Kennesaw State that unfortunately Blue Raider fans and the Conference USA alike hasn't really seen yet is what the other programs that Kennesaw State does excel at. And this just happens to be the football program isn't that right now. I know you kind of had some expectations for them going into your first Conference USA season. We've seen some mixed results last year. You have Sam Houston State, who has a 3-win season. I think that was kind of expected, and we kind of all thought Jacksonville State would have the same. They surprised Conference USA with a 9-win season and a Conference USA runner-up. So I know you're already down, it sounds like, and it sounds like a lot of people there in Kennesaw are down. Now that you've kind of had the reality hit you 5 games in, what are the expectations for the remaining 7 games of this season for the Owls?
To win a game, really, and I don't say that lightly. That probably should have been the expectation we all had coming into the year. But if we can get out of this season with a win or 2, I think we would be more than happy to take that. I mean, we're very aware of the circumstances and the state of the program right now, and we're excited to be at this level, but the rest of the way, we're not thinking big picture this year. It's let's go beat a team or 2.
Does the 0-5 start, is that the main attribute to that, or was that an expectation going into the year that you thought, winning a game would be good for us in general?
I think we were all a little bit higher than we should have been. We were like, last year we had a poor season, went 3-6, but we were playing red shirt roulette. Like, our best players, or at least the ones who weren't seniors, were only playing 4 games. And it was just, a chaotic, I don't want to say mess, but it was a chaotic season. So we didn't really read that much into it. And we were kind of expecting to see more of a KSU brand of football, because traditionally we're winners. We won a lot of games at the FCS level. So I don't think any of us thought it was going to be as bad as it has been. But yeah, we've come down to earth. That's for sure.
And tell me, Coach Bohannon there, I think he's going in year 9, year 10, something of that nature. You touched on it there a second about the style that is Kennesaw State football. Have you seen a sort of transformation this year that's unlike what you've seen in years past because of that transition, or is it a personnel thing? Since the level of opponents has risen this season, have you seen a transition there with his coaching style per se?
Well, where things really kind of went the wrong way for us were some of the rule changes that came into play 2 or 3 years ago, where essentially the triple option was outlawed as we know it. And that was our brand of football for 7 or 8 years, and that's how we were successful. So we switched over to the pistol. We're now on our 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years, and I think the most discouraging thing about the state of the program is the lack of progress we've seen, in the pistol offense. It looks debatably worse than how it looked, on day one. And then it's frustrating when you see the teams who are also impacted by the rule changes, like the Armies and the Navies of the world, who, are killing it and were able to transition cleanly. But that was definitely a wrench, and we're still trying to kind of figure things out there. And we are yet to establish the sort of offensive identity that we want. So,
well, not to bag on these bad numbers here, but the offense, the largest discrepancy is the Owls offense averaging just 14.6 points per game. It's the worst in Conference USA. And then secondly, their defense is allowing 36 points per game, which is second worst to, fortunately for you guys, a team that you play tonight. So, tell me, you've already touched a little bit about the offensive having to change a lot. Coordinating rolling over year to year is always going to be a problem. No matter if you keep personnel or get new personnel, it's an adjustment for everybody. The language changes. Obviously, the schemes change, all that stuff. But I want to know from your perspective, where do you think, what's the bigger issue? What needs to be addressed first? Do you think it's the offense not being able to put up points, or the defense not being able to stop points?
For the defense, it's a lot easier to just write it off as a personnel issue. This is still a mostly FCS talent level roster, and it's nothing against the kids on the roster. There are good players on that side of the ball, and we give them their props, whenever we can. But with the offense, it's like, even though those challenges are there, we still feel like we should be further along in this process than we are. And I'll be honest with you, it's an ugly watch. The weapons aren't great. The quarterback situation isn't great, and the O-line isn't great. So there's not a whole lot of redeeming qualities on the offensive side.
Well, one bright side that I was able to look into was the amount of sacks allowed from the Owls offensive line. And I would say partially due to the fact that you guys do opt to run the ball a little bit more. 62% of your plays is the run game. But the running numbers aren't there. So that's a kind of a weird discrepancy that the sacks aren't happening, but neither is the run game. So again, I dissect this Owls offense a little bit for me. My assumption is, because I don't have the opportunity to watch too much Kennesaw State football besides the Jacksonville State game, your previous one. My assumption is there's a lot of lateral passing, horizontal passing that spaces the field out left to right per se than the vertical game that you might see at the FBS level. Would that be an accurate description of what we're going to expect tonight?
Yeah, and here's the thing: is our offense is so focused on kind of getting the ball to playmakers in space. And there's one really, really good player on this offense, or one really good offensive playmaker, and that's Gabriel Benyard, who's been hurt for most of the season. So when you take him out of the equation, it makes things really difficult. I would say that stat you brought up about the sacks is fairly misleading. The pass protection is not great by any means. Every throw is pressured, and it's at a point where you almost get the super conservative play calling that has annoyed a lot of the fan base, where it's like, okay, well, we can run it up the gut and hope to get 2 or 3 yards, or we can drop back to pass and have a serious risk of losing 8. So it's like, do you take the 2nd and 8, or do you, gamble and risk putting yourself in a 2nd and 17 situation? It's hard to see out of. We're hoping that we get Benyard back, and really that's a game changer, because that's I believe an all conference caliber player who doesn't have the numbers because he hasn't played a ton this year. But if he's back, then we will have more ease moving the football. That's for sure.
Another aspect, especially in Conference USA, and really you could make the argument for all of college football, is who is under center for your team. It changes everything for you. Look at Liberty and Caden Salter, even MTSU and Nicholas Vadiato. We see with what Jacksonville State does now that they're at their quarterback. That is Tyler Huff, who's finally got that team off the ground. So it seems like the quarterback play is something that is you've got to have at least someone in the top echelon of the conference to be a relevant team. You got redshirt sophomore Davis Bryson, who's your quarterback now, young guy, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. A lot of those, or actually all those interceptions are happening in the last 3 games. So, and he had 3, I believe, in the Jacksonville State game. What about his game? Do you need to see change to kind of get the offense moving in that right direction?
He's had a rough start, and a lot of that has been on him, but it's hard to pin all of it on him because the weapons are just not there. I mean, the receivers struggle to get separation. They've struggled in each and every game. We've been unable to really establish the running game outside of the Jacksonville State game, last Friday. So he's got intangibles. He's really fast. He's, I think, more accurate than people give him credit for. A handful of those interceptions really weren't his fault. They were the product of tip balls and, just miscommunications on the part of the receivers. So it's hard to pin it all on him, but he definitely needs to be better. But he has no time back in the pocket, and when he can't really utilize his legs and get to the edge because we can't set the edge on offense, it's hard to ask a whole lot of him. So
on the defensive side, who are some players that have the ability to kind of wreck the game for the Owls and make a difference on tonight?
So the one defensive unit that's been really average, I guess, and I say that as a compliment, like our one kind of middle of the pack in college football unit has been our run defense. I say Puda Walker's a name you're probably going to hear a lot, defensive tackle. He's been good at stopping the run up the middle. The DBs haven't been great. The linebackers haven't been great, and we've been able to get 0 pressure. So there's not a whole lot of names that really deserve to be highlighted. I say that in the nicest way, but I would say Puda Walker is really the standout. I would go as far to say the clear-cut best defensive player on this team.
MTSU hasn't played Louisiana Tech at the time of this recording, so really would put into perspective how desperate either one of these teams are to get a win tonight at the time of the release of this recording. Because if MTSU were to lose, they're 1-5. They basically have to win out to make a bowl game. And then I don't know, it doesn't sound like Kennesaw State has bowl game in their aspirations. Not that I think that they could. I think they're in a probationary period anyways with bowl games. So, but you still want to get a win under your belt. I want to hear. We've talked a lot about a lot of the downsides with that transition for you guys. What needs to happen tonight for Kennesaw State to get a win in Murfreesboro?
Force a lot of turnovers. That's been one positive is, our defense can't not necessarily stop anybody, but we've been able to force turnovers. I mean, I think we had 3 against San Jose State, which is a really solid group of 5 team. We had a couple against Jacksonville State that set up scoring opportunities for us. So we're going to need a bunch of lucky bounces against any opponent. Any conference opponent's going to be a tough game for us. We need to be able to get some push on the line. We got to get Bryson, or, there's always the chance that they throw Caleb Johnson at quarterback for his first start. They just need to have time. We're going to need to have 7 or 8, lucky to great plays that we didn't expect to be in any game this year. That's just the way it is.
Last question for you here. I know you're a lot more deep rooted into Kennesaw State football than I would be, or anyone else that's in our Conference USA roundtable. What's the outlook for Kennesaw State? I know from an MTSU perspective, we feel really good about next season. This isn't really our year, we don't think. How far along are the Owls away from what, in your opinion, being competitive in this conference?
I think at least 2 or 3 years. That doesn't mean that you don't hope to see improvement next year and the year after that. But I don't want to say this season's a wash because, look, we're only 5 games in. There's still a lot of football left to be played. But I think the fans' focus needs to be on the future. There's been a lot of speculation about the current administration and, where the athletic department is going to go with that. So there's a lot of unknowns. And to be frank, it's kind of hard to be optimistic right now, but we keep leaning on the things that are going, or, that are in our favor, being the recruiting base we have, up in North Georgia, some of the money that's rolled in, hopefully going towards some better facilities. We're close to reaching some of those goals. So it's a long-term project. Expectations aren't going to be anything serious for a little while here. And I think the fan base, me included, have really settled into that being the reality, and we're kind of okay with it at this point.
This podcast is an all sports podcast, and as I teased at the beginning, I think Kennesaw State offers a lot for Conference USA, and we'll turn the talk off of football now. Is this kind of the first opportunity I've had to speak with you personally, as well as anyone from Kennesaw State for that matter? Other programs, where should our attention be? I know basketball is always competitive. One thing, I'm doing a little bit of women's basketball research now ahead of that. I think the women's team returns a lot of talent from that team. I don't know much about the baseball program, any other thing else, but tell us a little bit, Kai, about Kennesaw State and what they bring as far as teams that are already competitive this upcoming season.
Sure. So our baseball program historically has been very successful. We were always at the top or near the top of the Atlantic Sun Conference. We've always recruited very well. Once again, that's a state of Georgia thing, ton of talent in all sports really in the Atlanta area. Basketball, historically, one of the worst programs in America until 2 or 3 years ago. We made our first ever run to the NCAA tournament, won the Atlantic Sun. And since then, the attitudes really changed towards the program. Our previous coach, Amir Abdur-Rahim, left to take the South Florida job, and he's doing well over there. But we brought in Antoine Petway, who we've all been really excited about, and he's been killing it in recruiting. I think that program is still a year away from really being competitive in the conference and having a chance to contend. But I think in the following year, we're going to surprise some teams. I expect us to be hovering around the middle of the conference to the bottom of the conference, with us pulling a couple of upsets along the way, because they're really, really young. But it's a talented group. It's a lot of fresh faces. Women's basketball, once again, historically has not been great. There is some returning production that we're excited about, but that program's kind of been treading water, and they're just kind of subject to being brought along with the other sports. But yeah, I'd say baseball is definitely kind of the top program in the whole department right now. And I think they're going to be, making serious noise really quickly in Conference USA.
Well, we appreciate Kai Millette joining us today. Again, he's co-host of the Owl Chat podcast. I know you guys do a midweek episode, and again, much like the Blue Raider podcast, you guys do stuff throughout the entire season for all your sports. So, of course, check them out. Check out any sort of collaborations we do over at Conference USA Roundtable. Kai, I appreciate you stopping by, and it sounds like I'll be seeing you tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was a great time.
Thanks for sticking around to the Raider wrap-up portion of the episode, where we will review this last week in Blue Raider athletics, as well as look ahead to the incoming week in all things Blue Raider athletics. And we will kick things off with football, who had a loss on Thursday night against the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs by a score of 21-48. Talked a lot about it at the beginning of the episode with Isaiah Davis. Not really much I want to continue to harp on, but Nick Vadiato is our player of the week, who went 24 of 39 passing for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he continues to be the bright spot for the Raiders on the offensive end. Hopefully he can continue to find some connections and put more points up on the board this week, as they will certainly need it against a pretty poor defense that is the Owls. And that game will kick off tonight at 7 p.m. So tune in there, or if you're not already at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium, we look excited to hopefully get ourselves back into the win column against a struggling Kennesaw State team. On the topic of Idun Kvaale's interview, I've got the Lady Raiders picking up a win in the 100 Miles of Hate for the first time in her career, and it has been, I believe it's 3 years since the last win over Western Kentucky, but they defeated the Hilltoppers 2-0 Sunday night. It was Mana Labarji who got her 10th goal, tied for second in Conference USA, as well as another assist to add to her 2-point evening. And a big matchup for the Lady Raiders as they jockey for better position in the conference tournament coming up at the end of the year. They are in Huntsville, Texas, to face Sam Houston Lady Cats, and that fixture will begin at 1 p.m. on Sunday the 20th. Lady Raiders volleyball has a 500 week. They dropped both of their matches to the Hilltoppers in Bowling Green 0-3 match 1 and then a 1-3 match 2. Tough going there against a very strong Western Kentucky program. They were able to get a win on the third set against them in match number 2. But nothing came of it as they dropped that match. But fortunately, they had a very dominating performance against Jacksonville State over the weekend, defeating the Gamecocks 3-1 in match 1 and then winning match 2 3-0, and actually won their last 6 sets there. So really dominating performance there as they continue to move closer to the tournament as well, trying to clinch that last spot. And they will have an opportunity to hopefully pick up a few more wins against Liberty this weekend as they are in Lynchburg, Virginia. Match 1 is on Friday the 18th at 6 p.m. and then match 2 is on Saturday at 6 p.m. as well. And I don't want to miss our Player of the Week honors going to Lau Jansen, who got 69 digs this last week. Comfortable enough to keep her in first place in Conference USA in total digs at 348. So it's been a very impressive year for Lau as she's moved into that libero position and continues to play that defensive game of hers. Men's tennis returned back from West Lafayette at the ITA Ohio Valley Regionals. A doubles win for Andre Horak and Karim Al-Amin, who both, as I said, were champions of the doubles. They will have the opportunity to compete for a national championship this coming fall, as they've changed the formatting to the ITA National Championship. But I also want to give a shout out to Shu Matsuoka and Jakob Kroslak, who picked up a win and moved all the way to the round of 16 in the doubles as well. On the singles side of things, Al-Amin was not done. He got third place finish for the singles. He fell in a very close semifinal matchup, but did pick up the win in the consolation third place game. So big congratulations to the junior there. Expecting big steps from him this upcoming year. And if this is any indication of that, I'm really excited to see what Al-Amin brings to the table for the Raiders this year. And then his doubles partner, Andre Horak, did pick up a few wins and moved himself all the way into the round of 16, just shy of the quarterfinals. So always expect great stuff from Horak. But this team in general, if this doesn't get you excited for the upcoming year, they're going to have, I don't know what it does. So excited to see what Horak and Al-Amin do in the national championships coming up in November. Then women's tennis hosted their own Ohio Valley Regional here in Murfreesboro this last week. Alicia Truden got all the way to the round of 32 in the singles, and then Lena Payer also made it to the qualifying second round. She was just one round shy of making it into the main draw, but good to see some of our ladies picking up some wins there in some highly competitive singles matchups here early in the fall season. Men's golf, give you a little step in view of where they're at right now. They are currently had a little change in schedule. They are now in Burlington, North Carolina at the Elon Phoenix Invitational. Have had a great round 1 and 2 yesterday, Monday. The team is currently at 3 strokes under par, and it's good enough to have them in third place out of 18 teams. J.J. Zimmer and Marcus Vargin are both tied for 10th place at 3 strokes under. Thad Whitfield tied for 20th at 1 over. Sheldon McKnight tied for 35th at 3 over. And then Carter Maneth tied for 40th at 4 over. And then Charlie Bell, who also is having had a great round 1, actually was under par, and had a tougher round 2, but he currently is sitting at tied for 60th at 6 strokes over par. So eyes peeled today to see where they wrap up round 3 there in Burlington. Of course, stay tuned to social media, and then we will have it wrapped up next week, as this is the final tournament on schedule as of now for the fall season for men's golf. And women's golf also wraps up their fall season this weekend. They will be at the Mercedes-Benz Intercollegiate in Knoxville, Tennessee. Their first round will actually begin on Sunday, the 20th, and that will go all the way into Tuesday. So again, stick around as we'll be as up-to-date as we possibly can for that Tuesday morning release episode as the Lady Raiders conclude their fall season. And then lastly, it is cross country. They will have their final regular season match, in quotations, this Friday at the Arturo Barros Invitational there in College Station, Texas. Again, that is this Friday, the final little tester for the cross-country team for both men and women's before their conference championship coming up in early November. So stay tuned for social media for the results of that one. And that will do it for our Raider wrap-up portion of the episode. I appreciate everyone tuning in this week. Again, thanks to our guests, Isaiah Davis Idun Kvaale and then Kai Millette of the Owl Chat podcast for joining us today. I look forward to next week's episode where we will actually be talking a little bit of basketball once again, and then obviously we're going to have a little football talk. But next week we've got Connor Newt and we've got Oliver Baltz coming on. They're going to be talking. We'll recap the Jacksonville State, or we'll preview the Jacksonville State game, recap the Kennesaw State game with Connor, and then we will have Oliver on to talk men's hoop. And then stick around for the Behind Enemy Lines portion where we will talk with the 700 Pelham Road podcast, our friends over at the Conference USA Podcasting Roundtable, to preview the Gamecocks and our upcoming midweek game next week on Wednesday as well. So appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, thanks to our sponsor, the Conseco Group, Mighty Dog Roofing, for sponsoring this episode and the Blue Raider podcast. If you haven't already, we've got a giveaway going on, so make sure you are tuned in on our social media accounts so you don't miss out on an opportunity to win season tickets to both men's and women's basketball. You got to tune in there. So if you want to win those tickets, find our socials, like those posts, make sure you're following us, and of course share it, and the directions will be listed there in the comments or in the quotes. So thanks for tuning in, and I will catch everyone again next week, and until then, it is Go Blue.